Oh, hello and welcome to this video. So in this video, we're going to look at NASDAQ 100 and QQQ and S&P 500 and SPY. What the current trends are, what are some of the levels we should be keeping an eye on, so forth and so on. So let's start off with NASDAQ 100 on I have the daily chart open. You can clearly see that the index is on a strong uptrend, making series of higher lows, this being the latest higher low. And then since rising to this level, we see some profit taking. Also, you can see that the moving averages are going up, and the moving averages have provided support, came close to this here, support right here, and so forth. So these two moving averages are definitely going to provide dynamic support levels. Now, in terms of the levels, so let's look at the hourly chart so we can see what the structure looks like. So since reaching a high of this level, which is around 15,000, roughly 280, we see a pullback to this level right here, and then we see a rebound to 15,000. Then it paused here for a while and then broke through this level, and then it came close to retesting this level, and then it came back and retested the 15,000 level, rally, and then pull back to and retested this level before finally breaking out to the upside. So it has taken out this level and it rose to this level and then pull back. The question is, why did it pull back from this level? Okay, so to do that, let's look at the weekly chart so we can see the levels. So here's the weekly chart. You can see you can see that this is the Friday's high, 15,712 thereabouts. You can see this level is interest because there was a rejection right here, and this level also acted as support right here. See, this red candle found support at this level, this red candle found support. There was quite a bit of interaction at this level. So this is a very important level. And that's why we see some profit taking at this level. Now, if NASDAQ is able to take out this level, 15,712 or thereabouts on a weekly time frame, this is basically the last hurdle before it reaches the all-time high. There's nothing stopping NASDAQ retesting this, all-time high from November of 2022. So this is the final key level to watch. And that's why we saw some pullback from this level. Now, if we have further pullback, what are some of the levels we should be looking at? So if there's further pullback, the first level to watch is this level, which is 15,000, because this was a resistance right here. There was also a bit of a pause right here before breaking out to the upside. So any further pullback, I would be watching the first level to be this level. Next, I would be watching this level right here, which is around 15,200 level. So sorry, this is not 15,000. This is 15,300, and this is 15,200. So there's a 100-point range I would be looking out for. And then eventually, obviously, there's a gap here. Eventually, I would be looking at this level, which is the 15,000. So I thought the 15 was this. This is actually 15,200. So then I would be looking at 15, this level. And if this level is broken, then finally this level, which is around 14,680-ish. So those would be the levels I would be looking out for on the downside. And on the upside, obviously 15, 7, 15, thereabouts. And I've just talked about the significance of that level, because if that level gets taken out, there's really nothing stopping NASDAQ from reaching an all-time high. Now, overall, as I said, the trend is clearly up, and can NASDAQ afford to pull back? Absolutely. It can pull back and maybe retest the 20-day moving average. Even if it pulls back to the 50-day moving average, I still don't think, it does. On a daily basis, it might look bad, because the 20 EMA has provided support. But even if it pulls back to the daily 50 EMA, I don't think overall trend changes, because if you look at it on a weekly basis, it's on a very strong uptrend. We haven't had any weekly kind of pullback to establish a lower high, because if you look at on a weekly basis, the last weekly lower high is really right here. I mean, it did form a base right here, but if you consider this to be a weekly lower high, we haven't had one since this level, which is roughly around 13,000. So even if on a weekly basis it does something like this, it doesn't jeopardize the weekly trend, from making a higher low. And even if you look at the momentum indicators on a weekly basis, you can see that RSI is well above the 50 level. Yes, it's in an overbought territory. MACD remains above the zero level on a weekly basis. So when a weekly time frame, both the price action and momentum indicators are positive. So even if we have some pullback here, even if it's a deep pullback, on a weekly time frame it might be fine, but on a daily time frame it might look negative. On a daily time frame, if it does something like this and pulls back, this price action might look negative. Or even if you look at RSI, daily RSI might dip below the 50 level, and on a daily basis it might look negative. But as long as the weekly price action and momentum indicators remain fine, there's no violation of this, then I would consider any kind of daily weakness on a daily time frame to be temporary. So it's entirely possible for the daily pattern to become negative for a short period of time. Let's say for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, as long as there's no technical damage to weekly time frame. What does that mean? It means that weekly RSI do not fall below the 50 level and remain there. As long as it doesn't, I would expect any kind of weakness on a daily time frame to be temporary and a buying opportunity. And in terms of levels, we've talked about it. 15.3 at the beginning, 15,200, and then 15,000. So those would be the levels I would be watching on the downside, and 15.7 on the upside. So the equivalent figures for QQQ would be, so obviously the 383 on the upside. So if you look at on a weekly basis, similar to NASDAQ, the 383 basically, there's a rejection at this level from September of 2021, and then you see all these weekly candles interacting with this level. So that's on the upside. On the downside, you've got 373. If there is further pullback, that would be the first level. 371 would be the next level. And then obviously there is a gap, and then this level right here around 3665. So those would be the levels, and if these all fail, then look for this level, which is around 357, which is around 358.50. So those would be the levels I would be looking at. But as I said, if there is a deeper pullback and the daily pattern for QQQ looks negative, but the weekly remains fine, then I would not be worried. I would not be too concerned. I would view any kind of daily weakness to be temporary, and I would expect QQQ to recover. All right, so moving on to SPY. So let's have a look at the SPY and S&P 500. So let's look at S&P 500. Again, you can see that S&P 500 daily pattern, the price action remains positive, series of higher lows. The moving averages, the daily 20 and 50 are moving higher. So if there is any pullback, I would expect these moving averages to provide dynamic support. So let's look at the hourly chart just to see what are some of the levels we should be paying attention to on SPY. So where's S&P 500 first? So this is S&P 500. So S&P 500, so if you look at it, since this low right here, so it has rallied came to this zone right here, and then pulled back to this level, which there was some resistance at this level, and then rallied, and then it formed this hourly double bottom pattern, and then it rose up to this level. So let's have a look at why this level was significant. So if I look at the weekly chart of S&P 500, so you'll see that 45.45 is an important resistance zone. Between 45.25 and 45.45 is an important resistance zone. You can see that there was a rejection right here, so there was some support right here, there was support right here, so it came close to it, and then it pulled back. So that would be, so that area I would watch. 40 up to 45.45 would be a resistance zone, because if it's able to take out this 45.45 zone, there's really not much until we get to the previous high, which is around 4800. So this is an important weekly level, 45.45 level. If I show you the line chart, then you can see the resistance right here, you can see support right here. So that's why this area or this level is very important. So a weekly close above this level effectively opens the door to all-time high. So on a smaller time scale, because we trade, we need to look at the time, the levels on a smaller time frame. So if it pulls back, the first level I'll be watching is this level right here. So what level is this? This is around 45.60. Is that the first level? The second level is around 44.40. Sorry, did I say 45? No, this is 44.60. 44.60. Next level is 44.40. So those would be the two levels I would be watching first, and then if those two levels get breached, then I would look at this one, which is around 43.87. So those would be from a horizontal support point of view. But if you look at the daily chart, your daily 20 EMA also comes into play. The daily 20 EMA right now is around 44.10. 44.10 is just above this level. So 44.10 is somewhere around here. So those would be the orders levels I would be looking at. 44.60 first, 44.40, 44.10, which is the daily 20 EMA, and then 43.87, 88, let's call it 43.90. Those would be the levels I would be keeping an eye on. Now, if it breaks all of those, then obviously this comes into play, but we'll take one step at a time. If you follow me on my Twitter, then I will update it. This is my Twitter page. Then I will provide the levels as it happens during market hours. So those would be the levels I would be watching on a from a horizontal levels point of view. But otherwise, overall, trend remains up on a daily basis, weekly basis. Some pullback cannot be ruled out, only because on a weekly basis you can see that since forming this low, this is a higher low. We haven't, we don't have, you might consider this to be a higher low. So it hasn't formed any kind of, it hasn't pulled back on a weekly basis. If it does something like this, does that break anything on a weekly basis? No. So this is going to be another weekly higher low. But if it does that, it might look negative on a daily basis, because something like this will bring it to 42.50 level. I'm just making it up just to illustrate my point. So even if it pulls back to this level and retests this high, on a weekly basis, it still is a weekly higher low. There is nothing wrong with the structure, right? And as long as the weekly momentum indicators remain above, remain positive, meaning weekly, any kind of pullback doesn't push the weekly RSI below the 50 level and MACD doesn't fall below the 0 level, I wouldn't, there won't be any kind of violation on a weekly time frame, in which case, even if, let's say, on a daily basis it looks weak, I would consider that weakness to be temporary in nature, and I would expect S&P 500 to make a recovery and move higher over time. So those would be the levels for S&P 500. Let's look at SPY just to see what are the levels we should be looking out for. So obviously, this was the rejection point. So you want to keep an eye on this one. This is 451 on the upside. And if there's a pullback, the first level is this level right here, which is around 444. 444 to 442.50. So there's a 1.5 range that you want to keep an eye on. And if those levels are breached, then you look at the daily 20 EMA, and then finally this one. These are the horizontal level, 437. So if I bring in the daily EMA, so the daily EMA right now is around 451. 440. So 440 would be somewhere around here, right here. So there'd be the daily EMA is sitting around right here. So this level 444 and then 442.20, 440 is the daily EMA, and 437. Those would be the levels, horizontal levels to keep an eye on. But overall, I am not seeing any kind of weakness either on a daily time frame or on a weekly time frame. As I said, even if we have a deeper pullback, the daily might look weak, but if the weekly remains positive, consider the daily weakness to be temporary, and I would expect it to make a full recovery in due course and start to move higher. I think some kind of a pullback would be healthy, because it has gone up quite a bit. If it's to challenge its all-time high, maybe it takes a break, pulls back and then makes another rally. With all the earnings that are coming out in the next couple of weeks, we could see some volatility and we could even see some kind of a pullback. But as I said, I'm not seeing any sort of weakness at the moment, either on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. All right, I'll leave it at that. I thank you very much for watching the video. Please consider subscribing if you haven't, sharing, liking, all that good stuff. You can also follow me on Twitter. Otherwise, I hope to see you again on a future video. Thank you very much for watching this video.